how that's going to turn. Our favorite color we like to see. Make sure you get the commercial ready. You can start off with Smell, or you can start with the legendary one. You can start with the Smell one if you want to. Just give enough time to set everything up, because I'm going to come back and double check.
All right, ready?
Yep.
Every time I come in the press room, you in the press room, working on our Stars Hot Tronic heat press, using all the vinyl, making all the picture tees. I like vinyl.
I'm about to just load these boxes up on Nacho.
Man, you gotta be a crazy little brother to get fired on your day off. What you get caught stealing boxes for?
Man, I didn't get caught stealing no boxes. He said he caught me though.
You get our rent paid.
Why don't you go in there and ask the girls real fast to see if they help us pay our rent?
That don't sound like a bad plan at all.
What's up, Pops? What's up, Smokey?
I'm trying to set up a meeting with the girls, man.
Okay.
Y'all wanna help me and Craig pay our rent?
Craig still owe me money from the last time he got me. He gotta learn a lesson. He shouldn't be stealing. Go ask him to tell that girl from last night to give him some money.
What they say? They said it's slow for real.
I'm about to just ask boss when we get our job that night.
Of course you can. Yeah! Every time I come in the press room, you in the press room, working on our Stars Hot Tronic heat press, using all the vinyl, making all the picture tees. I like vinyl.
I'm about to just load these boxes up on Nacho.
Man, you gotta be a crazy little brother to get fired on your day off. What you get caught stealing boxes for?
Man, I didn't get caught stealing no boxes. He said he caught me though.
You get our rent paid.
Why don't you go in there and ask the girls real fast to see if they help us pay our rent?
That don't sound like a bad plan at all.
What's up, Pops? What's up, Smokey?
I'm trying to set up a meeting with the girls, man.
Okay.
Y'all wanna help me and Craig pay our rent?
Craig still owe me money from the last time he got me. He gotta learn a lesson. He shouldn't be stealing. Go ask him to tell that girl from last night to give.
Hey, what's good, y'all? It's your boy Peanut, aka Dash Resource. We're here with another Legendary People podcast. I don't have my man Sack and Smith with me here today. I actually have my son here, which is actually more legendary than anything else, because this is going to be something he's going to be able to benefit from. Literally get the dividends of his work, because he has been putting in a lot of work. He don't know this because I got to be hard on my son. I cannot tell him when he's doing great, but he's been doing an exceptional job. He got our Spotify, our Apple podcasters listening, all type of stuff like that. So I want to just take this time to say, son, thank you, man. I truly appreciate you. But we are here with listen, I know I oversell it every single time, but this legend there's no legend higher than who we have right now, which I'm going to say the future mayor of Dayton, Ohio. We got my man, Jeffrey Mims Jr., man. How you doing?
Man, thank you, man. Appreciate you. Appreciate you a bunch. Yeah.
So here at the Legendary People Podcast, we had a thing called Origins, where we find out where our legends come from. So without further ado, where'd you grow up at?
Well, I was born in Alabama.
Okay.
Clanton, Alabama, but my parents moved to Dayton when I was 2 months old.
Okay.
And of course, now people have heard me tell this story repeatedly that at 2 months old, I knew I wanted to be in Dayton, so I rented a car and drove them to Dayton. So that's how we got here.
Yeah.
So, and just been a pleasure, man. Just got here in Dayton, 2 months old, family poor.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know I was poor,
Right.
but I do recall we lived in some people's attics, lived in some basements,
Wow.
Here and there.
What area do you think?
Oh, I came in, right on Mercer Avenue, Ralph III.
Okay, yeah, 3rd Street.
Adillac. Ironically, I live in the Wright Dunbar area now on Shannon Street, so I live literally 5 blocks from where I first moved and where I first lived when I first came to Dayton, Ohio.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's just so special to be in that area.
So, what was it like in the early times of growing up there?
Special, very special. We had a lot of great things happening for us as far as young people going and going to school, Dayton Public Schools, kindergarten, Weaver School, which is
Weaver.
going way back. Weaver School, Waldman School, Miami Chapel, then back to Waldman, and then my parents moved then to Jefferson Township. Because of my roots in Dayton, though, even though when I was out in Jefferson Township, I was able to drive back and forth or ride back and forth with my bike. You know,
Yeah.
up and down Germantown Pike.
Oh, you hear that, son?
Yeah, Germantown
The bike,
Pike.
not being chauffeured around by your dad, actually
Right.
getting on a bicycle.
Right. Germantown Pike.
Yeah.
Going to Mallory Pool.
Mallory
going
Pool.
Swimming.
Yeah.
Playing baseball down at Hudson Field. You know, and Jackson, you know, behind Jackson School. I mean, those are the kind of things that we did. So I think me and one of my partners, Rick Poole, growing up, so we were riding the bikes probably about 3 or 4 times out of the week, back down Germantown Pike to Dayton, just go swimming.
So, like, besides Rick Poole, which I know he's going to be a reoccurring person in your story from me, like, research you, who are some of your other childhood friends that you grew up with?
You know, Dean Lovelace.
Dean Lovelace,
was one of
legendary.
Yeah, we were all on the same track team at Jefferson.
What?
Yeah, back in the day. We were in class together. They were a year ahead of me. So knowing those guys was very special. Friends, a guy by the name of, they call him Dirty Red. His name was Alan Ogletree.
Okay.
Keith Harrison was younger. His older brother, Steve Harrison, who also played the drums. We played in the bands and whatnot. And growing up also identifying with people like Satch. When I played with the Artists of Music, he was you know, the main man in the band before he left and went to the How Untouchables and then to the How Players.
Well, I want to start there too, because like your life is deeply entrenched in music. So like, when did you first fall in love with music as a child?
Well, you know, I got to give credit to my 4th grade teacher,
Okay.
Miss Miller.
Miss Miller.
Miss Miller always saw me beating on the desk, you know, 4th grade when I was at Miami Chapel.
Yeah.
And there was this concert at the Memorial Hall, and which I didn't want to go, but she made me go. I think a little quarter for the lab fee or whatever the case may be. So she knew that there were drummers in this program. So I fell in love with playing the drums, watching these guys do their thing.
Yeah.
And so from that point on, I wanted to be, become a drummer. And so during that time in Dayton Public Schools, in the 4th grade, I think it was probably 3rd or 4th grade, the music teacher would give you a flute. Every kid had a flute.
Every kid.
Every kid had a flute. And so they introduced you to music during that time.
Yeah.
And so you play the flute, you learn how to read a couple little notes here and there, and you learn how to blow it, and it was just so much fun in terms of dealing with that, which is one of the reasons why Dayton is the funk capital of the world.
Absolutely.
Because of so much richness in the area of music that we had back in those days.
Right. So, like during this time, you were deeply in music. You start a garage band.
Well, I didn't start a garage band, but we used to practice in our garage.
Okay.
So Steve Harrison and I, we played in all these talent contests all over the city of Dayton. In fact, we won every talent contest three times. Not
three
one,
times,
three times. Okay?
Yep.
It got so competitive, or non-competitive for so many individuals, that they decided they would just have us as a guest act.
Right.
They just paid us to play and do our little thing, because it wasn't fair for the other competition. Because they would come to the competitions, and they'd be talking stuff and whatever. And my partner said, "What y'all talking about? Who gonna get second?" so it was like we already knew what was up in terms of who was gonna get first. We were throwing sticks back and forth to each other, sticks up in the air, catching them behind our back. Man, yeah, we were tough.
Yeah. So like a little bit before that, like during like your let's go back to like 6th grade, right?
Okay.
So like you was having issues in school, and they considered you special education, but you actually were getting
tried.
They tried to pull that on you, right? They tried.
My teacher, and if she has any, I don't know if I want to give her full name or not.
All right.
Okay. But
Respectfully.
back in time, she hated me and I hated her. Okay, we were going through DSEG issues out there in Jefferson Township, but we had so few African Americans who were there. Probably maybe 5% at the time that I was there in school. We had a superintendent, Mr. Adam Becker, who should still have his halo should still be polished, because he was dealing with a situation where he was trying to help the teachers understand the diversity that was coming to them.
Right.
Because of Carver Village being built in Jefferson Township, where a lot of black families were moving into. Later on, Allendale, which is another area that's closer up to Germantown. And so those were all predominantly black families that moved to those areas, and it changed gradually the race component, if you will, as far as Jefferson Township schools are concerned.
So I want to ask you, so like, what was that like to be one of the forefronts of that type of change? I mean, because we see like, you know, like movies and stuff like that of it being a large, like, you know, a strong presence of, no, you're not allowed here. What was it really like?
Man, it was challenging. It was tough. In mentioning going back to that 6th grade teacher, it was something that there was this instant resistance that we seemed to have for each other. I did not like the way she talked to other students of color. And so I took it upon myself to sort of like be rebellious, if you will, to try to defend and support some of the other students who were involved in the classroom. Now I can go back to Theolanda Harewood, who was there, part of the Harewood family, who were all high achievers. She wound up being a principal in Dayton Public Schools. Right. Her brother Dorian was the actor, Dorian Harewood. He was a few years behind us. In my class also, Bernard McClung, his father was an electrician. He wound up doing that same kind of electrical work, technician as well. Ironically, we have a gentleman, Mr. Perry E. Henderson, or P.E. Henderson, who's the pastor of Corinthian Church. He was in my class as well. I mean, so it was interesting to be in those situations with young people who, like I said, I sometimes felt like I was their protector. Now, I wasn't big as a nickel, man, but you know, the issue is I just did not like bad treatment for anybody, including myself, of course, but my friends as well. So me being somewhat rebellious in that time, which caused the teacher to want to have me tested.
Wow.
And in the process, had me tested. Not because I wasn't doing my work, because I was doing the work. School work was always easy for me, you know, and it was easy. And I didn't know why until I heard them say that I was gifted in terms of the situation with the psychologist, of whom they did not get permission from my parents to test me. And had it not been for the superintendent being in that room when they said, well, hell, we can't put him in special ed, he gifted. And so I did not know the reason for them trying to test me was to try to put me in special ed because of my behavior.
Wow.
Okay. So
wow, that's legendary.
So you know, when you go back, maybe one of the reasons why I wound up being a teacher representative, union president, helping teachers, was maybe to try to give back to the teachers for all the hell I created when I was a student. So you look back. Okay, I owe back big time to the education profession. But so those situations were challenging, and probably more challenging than what we realized. But I do recall things changed a little bit when the superintendent, who walked the halls a lot, because Jefferson Township during that time frame was a K-12 building. So kindergarten to 12th grade was all in the same building.
Yes.
So he was always walking the halls. And one of the 25th time that I was probably in the hallway,
Not the first.
Yeah, no. So it was like, okay, so what'd you do in the hall?
Yeah.
It's kind of sitting me out again, what'd you do? So I explained to him, I think it was something very simple. Someone asked for the date.
Yeah.
And so I said, April 5th. Jeffrey, get in the hall. So okay, I'm out in the hallway. So again, come back. So what you in the hall for this time? So I explained to him, and so he sent me back in the classroom. He called her out, and I heard the voices raised.
A little lively.
Yeah, a little lively conversation. Then he called for me to come back and took me to his office. And he explained to me how some teachers were having a hard time dealing with race relations.
Wow.
And and being a 6th grader It was a very
sixth grade, I have to hear that.
It's a very elementary conversation, but still meaningful to me. And I apologize for the tears, dog,
Oh, it's all
because that goes back. That cuts deep.
Absolutely.
In terms of going back thinking about those things, which it did cause me to do a little bit better in terms of attitude and behavior. He asked me to try to do better, and he also told her to do better.
Right.
And so we never were,
Jailed together.
jailed like that, because she still had that anger, which I think mostly anger for herself.
Absolutely.
That she tried to just push out and disrespect and mistreat other young people.
I'm gonna say right now at this point, she clearly was wrong about you.
Oh,
obviously, right. That go without saying.
Yeah.
I'm also gonna add to the point of so what was the curricular change? Because going from city school and then now you're integrated into a different system.
Mm-hmm.
Did you see any benefit in that in hindsight, or do you feel that it really wasn't a difference?
Well, seriously, what I would give so much credit to, again, my fourth grade teacher, because, again, Miss Miller, Lillian Miller to be specific, okay. Is because I developed confidence,
Right.
Self-confidence in terms of the work that I did. So, like I said, the aspect of doing the school work itself was never a challenge.
Right.
And so I noticed a lot of young people sometimes in Jefferson Township during that time frame, we had to look over someone else's shoulder or look over the teacher's shoulder while they're teaching or helping someone else.
Wow.
And not getting the full benefit of the instruction. When we began to be involved in athletics, the coaches were some of our better friends, best friends. And remembering guys like Mr. Day, Bob Gregg, who coached football, track, wrestling.
At what school is this?
At Jefferson Township.
JT.
Phys ed teacher as well. Taught government. I don't know how he taught all the things he taught.
Wow.
But one of the things that was special about him is the fact that he didn't take any mess. All the guys were crazy about him in terms of stuff they did. If you were told to someone told on you for doing something you had no business doing, at football practice where I played for 2 weeks, not 98 pounds trying to play tackle, that didn't work out.
You gave him the best 2 days of your life.
Right. 2 weeks. I was at 2 weeks.
The best 2 weeks of your liip.
Okay.
14 days.
Yeah. Okay. But you either practice or track practice, you had to either at phys ed class, you had to wrestle or box somebody twice your size. And then after school at track practice or whatever, you had to run laps, do extra push-ups. So he had his way of getting at you.
Right.
Okay. So he didn't have to paddle anybody. He just had his way of getting at you.
Yeah. Because paddle was a thing back then.
Man.
All the way to my era. I saw paddle in my principal's office. That scared me enough. But
no, we had this one teacher. He was also one of the coaches, Mr. Ned France. Had this big long paddle, okay, about this wide, and seemed like about that thick, but it had these holes.
Yep.
That were about 3/4 of an inch in diameter, and so he had about 15 holes in that paddle.
Yep. So
before he gave you a paddling, he would explain why the holes were in the paddle. So, so these holes are in this paddle so that when I swing, it helps the airflow. So it increases my swing speed. So when I hit you in your butt, it's gonna hurt more. So now, not only is it gonna maximize my swing speed, these holes are gonna suck your skin up in between them, and so it's gonna add to the pain that you feel. So you hurting.
Yeah.
You hurt before he even hit you.
Yeah, right.
So it's like, okay, all right, man.
Yeah.
So you tried not to get paddled by Ned France, okay?
So you've been paddled before.
Oh yeah, I've been paddled. Yeah.
What's your stance on, that type of punishment for children today?
Today is totally unrealistic. I even in my earlier years as a teacher, when paddling was legal, I did have some of those situations where I paddle kids. Very few.
Oh, you didn't have to whoop some ass.
Yeah, very few.
Yeah.
I did a lot of talking about what you're doing, why you're doing what you're doing, etc. The reason why I think paddling was minimized or eliminated because it was cruel, if you will, and we had probably about 1 to 2% of the educators across the nation that would misuse it. Okay.
Right.
So that over a period of time began to, cause people getting lawsuits, injuries, etc. because of that. Because it was just so not the
like
best
it's ambiguous.
best way of discipline as
Yeah.
far as children are concerned. Like even like the guy near France, you got the paddling, but he hit a mind game
Yeah, right.
first. Okay, very few of us got paddled twice by him with that paddle because, like I said, all the conversation that went along with it, and he was one of those individuals that talked to you about what you did and why you did it. Much like my father, those 13 whoopings that I got from him, I knew what I did. Okay, and I tried not to do it again.
Right.
Okay, tried not.
Right.
Tried
Tried.
hard not to do it again.
Studied
Okay?
not to do it again.
But so much of the problem was because we did have people who misused that, who mistreated children.
Absolutely.
And fortunately, it was banned. I can't remember the exact year, but it was overdue.
Yeah, a lot. I mean, so it was after my year. Like, just to give my little story real quickly.
Yeah.
I was at McNary, and shout out to it was Principal Jackson there. He had a big old fro, and I remember going in there to get talked to by the principal, and I asked him what was the red thing behind him for. He said that's for whipping kids. And I was like, this ain't where I want to be at no more. But so like, what was your early home life like for you?
Mom,
Dad.
Bless. And like I said, when we first came to Dayton, we were PO, P-O.
Yeah, P.O.
Yeah, we didn't have all 4 letters. But I didn't know.
I like that.
Yeah, but I didn't know. What I realized that all my basic needs were met: food, clothing, shelter. If I needed to go to the dentist or medical care, it was a given. Okay. Being the only child, being spoiled probably more by my father than my mother. But his came with rules. Okay, so like I said, I had those 13 whoopings from him. I had 13,000 from my mother. Okay.
Oh, who's counting?
Yeah. Okay. But the issue.
You're a really good commissioner, by the way.
Yeah.
To count ass whoopings.
Yeah, man. I had to count them ass whoopings.
Go ahead, my man.
No, but the aspect of focusing on trying to do the best you could in all that you do. My father played semi-pro baseball, with a little Negro guys, or Negro League they called it, over at Burkham Park. Okay. And so that's why baseball wound up being my primary sport in terms of when I was in school. But the issues of them working factory and then me going to school and understanding that my father said, okay, go to school, get involved in many things you want to get involved in, okay? Do the best you can in everything that you do. Don't be up there acting a fool, and don't bring me home those stupid grades.
There we go.
Okay? Now, my mother nor father went past the 5th grade.
What?
Okay, because they came from Alabama back in time where, of course, education was not mandatory,
Yeah, it wasn't.
and they tried to dissuade, children of color from going to school. Working on the farm and doing all the work there. And I think, listening to my father say, one of the reasons why he wanted to leave Alabama because he was the oldest, and his father always had him doing all that hard farm work. So, working to that degree and not seeing any type of a future other than working on the farm, which is not something that he wanted to do. So again, he made the decision to, ask me to rent a car and bring him to Dayton. Okay.
Wow.
So, so that's how we got here. Under that, my mother did day work, cleaning people's houses, during the course of her lifetime in terms of dealing with that. Then she got a job at McCall's, and where I picked up the most friends because she was a professional pastry cook. So I always bake, cakes, pies in the house, man, And the guys always coming over, man, I just want to come and see how you doing. Oh yeah, man, you know my mother made this cake. so yeah.
Got a sweet tooth there,
just,
man.
I'll just stop by, check on you, dog. No, man, you want some of this cake, Yeah. So it was no problem, man. It was just so much fun. And because I was the only child, then having so many friends, that you interact with in terms of the experiences that you had. And one of the reasons why Rick Poole are still friends to this day. Thick as thieves.
Shout out to Rick Poole.
Okay. Me being in the 5th grade, first moving out to Jefferson Township, him being in 6th grade. And I'm watching these guys take turns pushing each other around this go-kart. Okay, Rick came to the door. You want to come out and ride? Okay, so I'm from the city, man. I know the deal. Okay, yeah. Right, man. Y'all gonna have me pushing this go-kart forever. It was his go-kart. They put me on the go-kart and they pushed me around for 2 hours. They never asked me to get off and push. Okay, so that was my introduction to some of the brothers in the neighborhood.
See, okay. So like, what was that transition like, moving from there to Jefferson Township? Well, for you, just
because we had, it wasn't that far. Okay, we still went to church at St. Luke Baptist Church, there, Lakeview, Clifton Drive. I was still involved in, again, Little League baseball, usher board, and stuff like that. And because there was no place else to go swimming, okay, so we were always like riding down, Mallory Pool, going down that hill, Germantown Pike. It was sweet. Riding back up that hill was a dog, though. Okay.
Especially swimming for hours.
Going back up the hill. But I tell a lot of young people now in terms of how we play 4 or 5 sports every day during the summer. And it wasn't on Xbox.
Right.
Okay. So we get up in the morning. Rick have everybody up. 6, 7:30 in the morning, run around the neighborhood carrying rocks in our arms, getting ready for cross-country season, getting strong.
Wow.
In terms of doing that. Then we'd go back, get on bikes, ride down Mallory Pool, go swimming for a couple hours, come back, go play baseball. Guys up there, a little park up there that we made a little space.
Y'all had like a ghetto triathlon going on.
And then if it wasn't dark yet, then we were going to play basketball. So it was a constant. In terms of different things, playing football in the grass in somebody's yard, front yard, backyard, side yard, those kind of things. So there was a whole lot of love out there in terms of the kind of feelings that we got from the brothers and dealing with those kind of issues. And then being integrated into the sports teams that were out there, and especially with some of those coaches. And like I said earlier, the coaches were our best friends in terms of taking care of the brothers. Being involved in the band, I still think the band director we had, even though he had some race issues, Mr. Lefevre was the best band director in the region. We had to practice hard, and we had 80 members in the high school band, but we had 125 in the junior band.
Wow.
So if you messed up, if you in the senior band, if you messed up, and they got somebody trying to take your place, like right away. So it was a blessing for me never to have been in the junior band. I was just, once my talent was recognized, went straight up to the senior band. But he had an issue sometimes where he didn't like blacks and he didn't like drummers.
And you were black and a drummer.
And a drummer. So I call it double hill. Okay. Me and Steve Harrison, So the drummers, after we went through a couple issues ourselves to establish our pecking order. Okay. Absolutely. So we had challenges. So then we got close. And sometimes he would buy music for the band and not buy music for the drummers. And it's like, come on, what's this cat trying to do, man? So we sit down, man. We do some things, practice on some stuff, and so we just get up. Sometimes they playing, and we all got our stuff together. So everybody liked what we did. What we did in terms of playing. So they wind up buying into it. He wound up buying into it. He realized, I think it was my sophomore year, he finally admitted. He said that he had the best drum section in the region. Now to validate that. We had 3 of the white guys who were in the band were with the Miller Blackhawks. Now, I don't know if the Miller Blackhawk band, drum and bugle corps, they were national champs twice.
Okay.
Steve Harrison and I were captain and co-captain of the American Legion and the Pythagoreans Drum and Bugle Corps.
Yep.
Okay, so we beat them twice in local competition.
Yeah.
Now we didn't have enough money to go to the national competition, but we kicked butt here. Okay.
Right.
but the thing was that we had 5 drummers in the band that were national champs and other who had beat the national champs. So we were like the bomb in terms of doing what we were doing.
So like during this time, I mean, you gotta have a bunch of influences. So for instance, like to me, like 1977 was the golden era of Dayton funk here. So can you run off some of the best from here? I mean, we got.
Well, the issue, and I told people is interesting that earlier today when we had the
Dayton funk.
Yeah, the Dayton funk. Or what they named that?
The street that the guy.
The street name.
I got it here.
I should have.
I got it. It's been a long day.
I had a picture with the sign.
It was on Stone Street.
Yep.
By the Neon Theater, and the name here changed to Land of Funk Way.
Land of Funk Way. So, interestingly, when I told people today, as I was speaking, that in 1977, 7 of the top 10 records were from bands from Dayton, Ohio.
Absolutely.
And and I didn't know that myself. I was in, I think I was in Minneapolis during that time frame for a National Education Association convention, and it was playing. So they're listening, they're playing, listening, playing, listening, and they keep listening. It's the top 10, so they run down. Mr. T and the Sidewalk, and there's Daz. Of course, the Howl Players. And so, man, we kicking ass, man. So it's just really one of those special feelings that you have, which is one of the reasons why I give so much pride and credit to people. For example, like David Webb, who's trying to push to get this funk museum, established. So if anybody's out there want to do some support with that, we really would love to have that.
Please make sure.
And also, but looking at going back to, like I said, one of the reasons why it seemed like I never had academic trouble as far as school was concerned was because the music concept, learning how to read music, gave you the confidence to read the written word. The skills were the same. You read from left to right, and you come back down from left to right, etc. The other aspect of how much that helped you academically was the ability to translate into how to do fractions, because you were doing half notes and quarter notes and 16th notes. So it helped you in terms of fractions, decimals, in percentages and ratios.
Wow.
All that is very closely connected.
So a little bit of sugar in with the poison a little bit. Yeah.
Exactly. So one of the disadvantages that we have in schools that don't have quality music programs is that our children are not getting the richness that they deserve to have that moves them to that next level and minimize some of the problems that they have understanding the concepts of fractions and half notes, okay? Because they don't have that easy way, like you said, the sugar and spice and whatnot way of learning how to read. So again, it's just one of those challenges, and of course, I say it like an educator because I will always be an educator because that's something that's so near and dear to my heart.
Right. So I read that you and Dean Loveland, y'all were Boy Scouts together.
Yep. Dean, Rick Poole, Emerson Harewood, Dirty Red. His name was Alan Ogletree because I think his whole family is his younger brothers, Alan, Michael, Chubbs.
So what do you think, like as a product of, like for instance, because y'all stay busy, because my grandma always said Annie Bonaparte is that idle hands are the devil's playground.
Right.
So the fact that you stayed in things
constantly
in things, do you think that benefits you in your childhood?
Oh man, without question.
And what was what was the Boy Scouts like for you?
But we had this scout leader, a guy by the name of Ewing Diggs.
Yep.
Okay, Ewing Diggs again, man, and Mr. Ivory. I think it's like Ken Ivory, but I don't want to mess the name up.
Ewing Diggs, scout leader in the 1960s.
Man, but even way back early during that time, man, the late 50s, and so it was special because this cat would give up his vacation time to take us camping Doing Easter break, spring break, during that time, and going out, doing the stuff in the woods, doing your thing there, campfires, just cooking out, man, just being out there,
right.
And hanging with the guys and little survival things that we did, understanding nature, being a part of that whole process. Although living in Jefferson Township, if you wanted nature, you just come out your house and walk across the street. Because back during that time, the woods and the creek, they weren't too far away. You know? So,
you can throw football to the creek.
Yeah, right. So, but when I go back and I give so much credit to people like that, that did those things for us, that kept us moving in the right direction. Had another guy, Mr. James Shepard. Mr. James Shepard was the advisor for the usher board, the junior usher board at St. Luke Church. He was also one of my baseball coaches. Yeah. Okay. Then we had other guys like Sean Sandridge. His father was a baseball coach.
Oh, wow.
As far as Little League is concerned. So, and he was involved in music and stuff. In fact, he was the manager for that band, which was the Imperials at the time. So we had these icons of men who did things to help young people. So they helped us with those transitions, and we always seemed to have a support system.
Right.
Always seemed to have a support system.
So like, what's that like having, a core group of friends in a nice neighborhood? You run to the creek if you had to. You're playing sports, even though, you're dealing with, the racial tension of having to go to school in a different district. What's it like for you during that time? Like, if you look at it just in hindsight.
Joy, pleasure. You look forward to every day, every set of experiences that you had. And even in the neighborhood, when you had your fights with the brothers, here and there. When we went to school, because of the challenges that we were having at school, if me and Wallace, we used to fight a lot.
Shout out to Wallace, man.
Yeah, shout out to Wallace. Okay.
Hey, both for it too, by the way.
Yeah. If somebody messed with me,
right,
then Wallace is gonna be the first one to come to my defense.
See that?
And vice versa. Okay. Because
brotherhood.
Our little childhood, little spats. Okay, didn't. That was just, okay, we did that, we had disagreement about this, disagreement about that, so we just not gonna let that affect where we are, how tight we were. And so as we moved to the next phase of dealing with life, we always knew that we had to protect each other.
Absolutely.
And so growing up, probably one of the reasons why I guess I wound up being so involved in helping mentor young men in terms of Jack and Jill Botillion, which also started in Jefferson Township, but not for me. Because I was gone, I was in the military during the time that they started.
We're going to
Jack
get there. We definitely going to get there.
Yeah.
Wait.
Yeah.
Before we get there, y'all, I would be remiss if I did not shout out our sponsors. I'll pay some bills real quick.
Yeah, you got to.
So, shout out to Sheiks. We go to Sheiks for breakfast. My man Ron C, my man Shorty. They got the best breakfast in the city. I promise you. You can go in there and have a really good time. Nice, safe, clean environment, COVID-free. If you want to have lunch, you can go to Agnes, all natural grill. They have, the cocoa bread. The best food in the city is everything I'm naming, of course. And if you are ever injured in an accident, you can contact Michael Wright, Attorney Michael Wright. First of all, contact the police first, and then go contact Michael Wright. Make the right choice. We have Big with my man Antoine Cunningham on Facebook. He has Kiara Wine. If you want to have a good time, you can get some Kiara Wine. Make sure you holler at him, Antoine Cunningham. He also has a DJ battle coming up where the sponsorship is Kiara Wine, and hopefully we're a sponsor as well. Shout out to Smith. And last but not least, we have the shoparea.com. The shop area has a little bit of everything from baby items to electronics, kitchen items, and more. Shipping is fast and free from the store to your door in 4 business days. We have a product that we actually got on Monday, and it should be here Saturday. No, I think we got it Tuesday, and it should be here Saturday. So she is really, really doing good on that business aspect of that. So, Jaden, you mind running a commercial real quick? Yeah.
Every time I come in the press room, you're in the press room. working on our stall's hot tronic heat press, using all the vinyl, making all the picture tees. I like vinyl.
I'm about to just load these boxes up. I'm out your way.
Man, you gotta be a crazy little brother to get fired on your day off. What you get caught stealing boxes for?
Man, I didn't get caught stealing no boxes. He said he caught me though.
You get our rent paid.
Why don't you go in there and ask the girls real fast to see if they help us pay our rent?
That don't sound like a bad plan at all.
What's up, Pops? What's up, Smokey?
I'm trying to set up a meeting with the girls, man.
Okay.
Y'all wanna help me and Craig pay our rent?
Craig still owe me money from the last time he got it. He gotta learn a lesson. He shouldn't be stealing. Go ask him to tell that girl from last night to give him some money.
What they say?
So during the commercial break, we couldn't do the full commercial break because I heard a story that was truly legendary.
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
Michael Wright, we actually interviewed Michael Wright on here. Shout out to Michael Wright. And he told us that, you know, his sport of choice was soccer. And you told me something very interesting during the commercial break.
Yeah.
And what is your experience with Michael Wright?
Man, Michael Wright was kicking my butt, man. Here's the deal. Okay, so it's like, when you see him smile, he got that big smile.
Yeah, big old smile.
Big old smile. And so I'm coaching soccer. It's probably like our first or second year soccer program in Dayton Public Schools.
Okay.
And so, I was at Belmont, teaching at Belmont and coaching the soccer and track. And so we were playing his team. I'm thinking it was Dayton Christian. I'm not sure.
It had to
But
be.
but anyway, this rascal man's coming down the field, the big grin on his face, man, and like Pele, man, no one could stop him. He was going in and scoring goals, then run back up the field laughing and stuff. Now I told him, I said, man, I got to a point where I hated that little man. Damn. I said, can't nobody guard him? I put three, 4 guys on that rascal, man. But so it's so amazing that when you grow and you move forward, and meeting him as a young man, you have so much love for him because of what he does and what he does for this community.
Absolutely.
And then being good friends with his parents.
Yeah.
That I've known them for a while as well, man. And so we smile, and I think when I interviewed him on my show,
Yes.
I brought that up.
Yes.
Yeah, man. I was still a little salty, dog. But no, man, he was a super athlete.
So because you found your your confidence in music, how important is it for
and art
as well? Mm-hmm. What is it like for young kids to find confidence in something rather than looking outward for their affirmations and things of that sort?
Well, that's why I go back to, like I was beginning to say, in terms of my work with young men, the Jack and Jill Botillion,
Yes.
those programs, and it's so ironic that the guys who started, Walker Williams and Ted Reese, were guys who lived in Jefferson Township.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was their paper boy.
What?
Yeah, back during the day. And so, fast forward 1976,
Okay.
I'm an adult doing whatever.
So at this point in time, you already graduated from Central State in
College,
1973.
Military, college, whole deal, and so I'm working, I'm teaching, and so my family, we were part of Jack and Jill helping out, because the wife had joined, and so they were having a large number of guys in terms of the Botillion, and so they'd ask the mothers, if you will, anyone have a husband or someone that would like to sort of volunteer and help us out for a bit. And so I was voluntold.
Not volunteer, voluntold.
And I went in and thinking that I was going to be doing it for maybe a month, 2, just finishing up the end of that season. And so not even thinking I was going to be a part of the program. And so they asked me, go get your tux, man. Go get your tux, the day of the event. So I wanted to get my tux, participating. And so then next year when they started, because the practices always are January through April in terms of working with them, twice a week, Wednesday evening, Saturday morning, okay, always 2 hours each. And then different other things in terms of activities that you do with them in between. And so they called me next January saying, you want to help out again? Yeah, okay. Then called me next, then that it began to be, that's what I did. Yeah. Okay, so as time moved on, learning all the functions and things that they did, because it was just teaching military drill, because each of them were military, prior military.
Right.
And Mr. Reese was a gentleman who was in the Rangers in terms of military, and so the discipline that we were able to teach the young men, help them experience that. Doing push-ups was something I instituted when you make a mistake. So you give them a little touch of the military life. So in terms of doing that, they began to move closer together as young men. And then we have situations where they learn how to treat a lady, how they hold a door, hold a chair, how to fold your napkin, take them to eat at a restaurant or a stage situation, so they understand which fork to eat with first and to move to this level, to the next level. And it begins to give them a sense of pride. You start looking at self-confidence in terms of how they do what they do. And we have hundreds and thousands of guys that have come through that process. And I started in '76, and probably this year, because of COVID, we're still doing some things. Hopefully to get something off this year, will be my 45th year of mentoring black male seniors. So it's just been very interesting and heartwarming. But the point, going back to the point that you made, and the reason why I want to mention those gentlemen is because with them starting that program, not only did it do a lot for the young men, like Bobby Bogan. I was talking to Bobby Bogan and had him, he said 41 years ago.
Yep.
Okay. And so here's a young man that retired, working. He did some stuff with the correctional institution. And he said, it's not just what you did for me. He said, but it's what you gave me the ability and the power and the strength and the confidence to do for others.
Absolutely.
And so you look at those kinds of things and you see how many people that you've touched. I mean, the brother had me crying, man, and just a little quick conversation about how much it meant to him to be a part of that program.
Right.
And just lost one of my partners who was involved with that process, Mac Howard, who was, just this past year. And just another strong brother who had been involved in education. Mr. Reese and Mr. Walker had passed away some years ago, but Mac Howard just this past year. But the bright spot is that I got some young men that one of them that was in the battalion with my son in '88, Joe Baylor. Then I got another young man. His son was in the battalion as well as himself. He was in, I think, in '87. And then we have two of the guys who are the younger guys who seem to be some of the more steady guys, if you will. Anthony Roebuck and Gerard Williams II. Okay, they were in the class in 2010. And so these young men, they breathe they breathe Jack and Jill Battalion.
Right.
And so not only do they work in terms of supporting the young men in the programs that we have when we practice, but they also go to the schools and check on their grades and sneak up on them and see if they're doing things they're supposed to be doing.
Right.
And they come back and let me know, okay, so we can, jump in their head, when they get back to practice.
So it went more or less from a, like a horse and pony show, and I'm saying it loosely, to now a mentorship, which now, has, became seeds for the future. But you didn't mention you was in the military. I did see that you was in Vietnam War. Can we still go to the back there just for a second? What was the military like for you? Just starting out, were you drafted? Was it willful? What were the choices that led to you going to the military?
Well, it was willful. A whole combination of things that caused me to make that decision. Having interacted with men in the neighborhood, in the community that had been military, who had positive things to say. Having a couple of teachers, one teacher that I talked about, Greg, military. Then had another gentleman by the name of Mr. Johnson who was in the Marines, and he was in World War II. And the fascinating instruction that they gave relative to, and they were both government teachers in social studies. So the fascination about what they were doing and how they did what they did during those times, and they were able to make the schoolwork so relevant. It made sense in terms of that. And so there was this patriotic seed that seemed to be planted. And when I look back at the things and conversations that we had back in those times, like the melting pot, for example, being the United States being the melting pot, wanting to take people from all nationalities. You know, some of the inscriptions on the Statue of Liberty, meaning you're tired, you're hungry, you're huddled masses, you know, those type of things seem to be what I thought really America was about in terms of doing those things. Now, I wasn't blind to the fact that we had racism and we had all these kind of things going on, etc. But I felt strongly about the Constitution and the purpose of where we were trying to go. So much so that when I did volunteer to go to the military, I said, okay, I'm gonna volunteer, go to the military, do my thing, and get some training, some things that I could do and come out. Because at Jefferson, my senior year, I was editor of the school paper, and which is a graphics position for the most part. I designed the cartoons because I was also an artist. So I designed the cartoons and the paper, designed the cover.
Would you have a degree in college for as well, which is a graphics part of it?
Wrote editorials, all kinds of things as far as that was concerned. So the educational academic piece was always there. It was never a challenge as far as that was concerned. But I sort of wanted to do something different with regards to that. So going in and then going through some challenges, still looking at being a part of the brighter, bigger world, if you will, and still seeing these challenging discussions about race and race relations and people being treated the way they shouldn't be treated. Looking at Ebony magazine and seeing pictures of people of color being killed in the South, just piled up, almost as to the point of the Holocaust, if you will.
Yes.
And so it's like seeing discrimination and mistreatment. And so then when I volunteered to go to Vietnam, it's like, okay, so I'm going to offer to put my life on the line so that when I come back, I'll be treated fairly. And of course, now I'm still waiting for those things to happen.
Yeah.
But those experiences there gave me such a stronger foundation in terms of how to deal with issues, how to deal with people, and having brothers and guys that became brothers.
Yeah.
Regardless as to whether or not they were
Black, white,
Mississippi,
colored,
Chicago, Detroit, what's the little place we had got down in Paducah, Kentucky, So I just remember that. So having those people, having them come together as a unit, but really disappointing was that. One of the reasons, because I say I played baseball, so I wanted to play, of course. And while going to college was not real high on my list, but had I known that I had baseball scholarship offers that came to the school that I never got because me and the baseball coach had a falling out my senior year.
Wow.
And I didn't know until I came back on after basic training. Everybody in the military, they come back to the school after basic training in their uniform. You're all tight. You want to show off.
Now you done worked out. You looking good.
You want to show off and stuff. And so you had some folks say, "Oh man, you in the military? Thought you went to college." No, I ain't going to college. Why do you think that? Well, we saw some of these letters for you to play baseball down the coach's office, and so didn't see you. So that's that's what we thought you'd done. So I said, "No, man, I was, crawling around over there in Vietnam and doing this and doing that." But no, I didn't know that I had those opportunities. So it causes pain, when you go back at it. But then coming back from the military and going to McCall's, still wanting to get into this graphics stuff that I loved and did so well in high school, and then to be told that I'm underqualified for an apprenticeship program. So they hired me as a janitor. All right.
Wait 1 second. I want to stop in there.
Yeah.
After going off and serving this country,
Right.
after, because, for instance, like we all want that pie in the sky of thinking, okay, because as I say all the time, Tony Ruby say, if you got skin in the game,
Yeah.
you going to the military to you gave you some skin in the game, thinking when I come back here, I should at least be celebrated and I have
or just treat it fairly. Okay.
To come back and your only opportunity that you found lucrative during that time was as a janitor.
Yep. So what James Brown said back in the day, you ain't got to give me nothing, just open the door, I get it myself. Mm-hmm. Okay, so you're thinking along these lines, okay, in terms of dealing with that. So now as we go forward, I go back and forth to the personnel office, trying to still make this move because I'm seeing some guys that were on my staff, some white guys, that were on my newspaper staff when we were in high school, working up in this area. And they asked me, man, why aren't you working up here? This is just like that stuff we did in high school. I said, yeah, I know, Don. Yeah, I'm trying, okay? I'm trying as I'm sweeping up in this area, okay? And so getting samples of my work, getting letters of recommendation from the principal and the superintendent, then going back and forth to additional meetings with the personnel staff at Dayton Press, McCall's, okay? Then being told that I was colorblind, which is the reason why we can't, you can't move in this area. So, oh no, man, I forgot to tell y'all, I'm an artist too. So let me draw this color wheel. I'm gonna show you all the colors, the primary colors, the secondary colors, the intermediate colors, and all these colors and what they make up to create the other color. And so then, okay, well, we talk to you later. So then came back. So now I'm overqualified. Okay, so now I'm overqualified for the same apprenticeship program that I was underqualified for before. So
are you kidding me?
No. So now it's okay. Tell you what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna go to college. I'm gonna come back after I major in graphics and come back and take over this department. So those were the reasons why I went to college.
Wow.
And so, unfortunately, like I said, having the background and the discipline to go to college was not a big deal. A little bit of a joke. Me and another one of my best friends were up there, and so or going, and we go up there and say, okay, we're gonna apply for the GI Bill, and so both of us look young, still look real young. So well they laugh. Oh, you gotta be a veteran to get GI benefits. I said, yeah, we are veterans. Oh yeah, he. So no, whip out your driver's license, whip out your military card, and they still like looking at this. So then we go through the work and whatever. So the rest is history in terms of the educational program that they had at Central State that created such a warm, rich learning environment that allowed me to flourish there. And so stayed on campus my freshman year. Then looking for a job during the summer, I found this opportunity from Model Cities, which is part of the President Johnson's War on Poverty initiative. And so
that's how you got started with teaching.
Yeah. Their move. So I worked as a teacher's aide during the day.
Yep.
Went to school in the evening. Okay. Next thing you know, I fall in love with education. Even though I was supposed to be designing cars for General Motors, I wind up teaching and getting hooked on teaching, and stayed in that particular field.
So, like during this time, like when did you catch like the like the coaching bug is what we call it around here? So
Man.
So like when did you get bit by the coach bug?
Okay, so while at Belmont, so I asked to go to Belmont because in the first 3 years of my teaching, it was in the DSEG program. After my first half year, because I came in a half year because I graduated from Central in December. So going into the school system in January of that year, man, it was cold as a dog in Michigan, which is one of the other reasons why I decided to stay and teach in Dayton. But the DSEG program in Dayton Public Schools, that was considered a failed program because it wasn't sufficient for the court. And there was 4 different centers where kids in grades 5 through 8 came to those locations, and I taught art in relationship to science. So after 3 years of doing that, the court said in 1976 that was insufficient, so they mandated system-wide DSEG in all the schools in Dayton Public Schools.
Yeah.
So I had asked to go to a high school because of the type of work that I like to do, and not knowing that because of my work in those 3 years at the elementary school, Eastmont School to be specific, that I came in contact with 80% of the kids and 80% of the teachers in the elementary system. So when I went to the high school, I knew 80% of the kids in the high school building.
Right.
And it was easy to
transition.
deal with issues with the kids, ask kids to stop fighting. They look up and say, "Oh, okay, Mr. Mills." Principal look at me, man, who the hell are you? I said, well, I had a kid last year and the year before last. We developed these relationships.
Good rapport with the kids.
Yeah, because it was easy, if you will, something I stumbled upon in terms of how you create a unit, how you create a family atmosphere within the space that you're working in. And it was something that was done with adults, but I use it also with kids. And so in each of my classes, and even when I coached, I would have the classes, the kids individually, write down 5 good things about themselves, their favorite color, their favorite musical group, how many brothers and sisters you have, 5 good things about yourself, 1 bad thing about yourself. And then we would sit across from each other, and they have 2 minutes to share all that information with each other.
Wow.
Then we move to the next person. Then they share. And they move to the next person. Then they share. And so then, once you finish, then they do the same thing to me. They ask me questions, etc. So I memorized the kids' names based upon what they got, what they were wearing in that day. So I tease them, okay, now y'all can't change clothes for two weeks. You gotta wear the same thing. But okay, so then I would explain. We talk about the definition of discipline, respect, character, motivational things, and then I say, in my classroom, there's no hitting, pushing, kicking, or name calling. Okay, unless you do it to the wall or you do it to me. Okay, the wall can take care of itself. I can take care of myself.
I know that's right.
And nobody in here is supposed to take any abuse. And so, it began to create this atmosphere. Now, I did that with the kids in the junior high. Now, when I go to the high school, got these big wrestlers, big football players.
I can beat you up?
Yeah, so I said, okay, well, I'm gonna say the same thing, but I'm gonna take the bass out my voice. It's like, all right, now I ain't gonna be like woofing, so we're gonna take the bass out the voice, so we make sure we got this thing straight. But understanding that because I had some of them in elementary, it was a continuation. They already indoctrinated, okay, with regards to what's happening. Because for 10 and a half years that I taught, I had 1 fight. Okay, 1 fight.
Right.
Because they did not want to mistreat each other.
Right.
Okay, so
you built a culture.
Yeah. So when the principal, Bob Diddy, who's a white dude who went to Central State, played football and stuff up there. Yeah. So he was the principal at Belmont. He came there the 2nd year after I was there, and so he had asked about coaching, and at this time, I think I'm treasurer for the teachers union.
Yep.
And still working, doing things there. And I said, I'd love to. I said, okay, I coach baseball. He said, no, baseball job, not open. Because there was this guy, John Wolf, good baseball coach, et cetera, et cetera. So I said, no, man, it's all right then. So he said, no. He said, what about soccer? Man, no, I ain't soccer coach. So he said, no, why don't you, consider doing that? I said, no. I said, and he kept on coming back. I said, no, he came back the next day. No, he came back the next day. And so I said, look, I had a 2-week unit in high school, okay? And then because they exposed us to a bunch of different things in terms of sports and activities. And I kicked around the Vietnamese son while I was over there. That's their thing, okay? So I said, this is, my experience, okay? He said, well, you got more experience than anyone on staff. He said, so you it, And so going to some clinics and camps and stuff like that, learned how to do what I did. So the interesting thing is that the athletic directors, it seemed like that blood is still in some of them, did not want to have these extra type sports, okay?
It's always so.
We got soccer in Dayton Public Schools because the superintendent's son, who was an administrator, pushed soccer. Okay. That's why Dayton Public Schools got soccer in 1978, because the superintendent's son pushed it. and they didn't have a choice.
Wow.
Okay, so the athletic directors in the building still were somewhat resistive, but they bought us like, it seemed like they went to Concord City and bought our uniforms. Okay, so the colors, the reds didn't match the other reds, the blues didn't match. Okay, so anyway, so we out there doing our thing. My first game, they hooked me up with Centerville. Okay, and Centerville been playing soccer for 20 years.
Millennia.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So we get killed. I should say the kids said killed it. Okay. 11 to nothing. Okay.
Wow.
11 to nothing. So
how'd that feel after losing 11 to nothing?
And so what made it worse is the athletic director who announced the score on the PA system. Seemed like they every 10 minutes they announced a score all through the whole school day. Okay, now it wasn't that much. Okay, he didn't do that, but it seemed like it. Okay, and so you just go around the school, people laughing and tickling and stuff. So after school that day, so you come down to my classroom. These brothers, Ron Harper,
legendary Ron Harper,
Tippy Dotson, Demetrius Minifield, Glenn Tyndall, Mark Tyndall, two white boys who act like the brothers, hung around the brothers all the time, and they were all athletes. Yeah. Okay, so they played basketball, track, baseball. Yeah. And so, Mr. Mims, you had a rough day yesterday, didn't you? Yeah, dog, rough. But you want us to play soccer for you and help you out? I said, y'all play soccer? No, man, we don't play no soccer, man. But we athletes, we'll figure it out. Right. Okay? And so it made such a difference because some of them I'd had in elementary school.
You got Ron Harper to play soccer?
Ron was a goalie.
Get out of here,
Ron
man.
was a goalie, dog. Was a goalie.
Get out of here.
Yep.
That is legendary.
Yeah. So he'll tell you to this day, man, I used to just make up stuff for him to do, man. Just make sure you were tight, protected yourself, etc. Okay, now I lost him after his sophomore year.
Yeah, of course.
Because he went to Kaiser because he got cut from the basketball team. Didn't recognize talent, man. So I had 7 basketball players on the soccer team. Ron could outplay all 7 of them. Shit, I could outplay 2 of them. Yeah. So it's like, so you gonna cut him. And so we just were not sure what he was gonna do going to his junior year, knowing that he was his greatest talent, obviously.
Right.
Okay.
Obviously.
Okay. And so when he said, guys and the coach had called him about playing over at Kaiser, because Kaiser was a vocational school at the time where he could transfer without being ineligible. So he made that move, man. Of course, he went over there. I ain't got to tell you how many points he scored every time he came back to Belmont. It's like he's like killing them.
Yeah. I'm going to light them up.
Yeah,
he circled that one on his calendar.
Man, he couldn't wait.
Shout out to Ron Harper.
Yeah. So I got into coaching that way and working with the kids. And seriously, first day of practice, I was saying to them, I said, okay, here's the deal. Okay. First of all, y'all gonna be in the best shape you can get in. Okay, I'm
military.
Military. I'm an athlete, so you're gonna get the best shape. 2, because I believe in discipline, you're gonna do what I say do. Okay, no nonsense. Just do what I say do. Now, 3rd, as soon as I find out what to tell you, we're gonna be in good shape. So this guy great. They looked around. I said, yeah, man, I ain't know nothing about soccer. I'm
a good coach.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure this out, man. We're gonna work this out some kind of way. And they wind up being sweet, man. They wind up being sweet. This guy who was at Central State, who was the soccer coach at Central, that guy by the name of John Irvine. And so he came down and looked at some things, helped me out, and then we took my whole team up to Central. And he worked them out for a whole day up there one summer, and came back. All of us felt like pros. Now.
Wow!
So yeah, we were kicking tail.
So how many championships would you have won if you had Michael Wright on your team? That's all. That's
that's all. Yeah, dog.
That's Michael Wright, man.
Yeah.
Let me pay the bills one more time, because I forgot to do the intro. Speaking of Michael Wright, if you guys are ever injured on a soccer field, okay, Please make sure you call the police first. An ambulance can take you to the hospital, and you call Michael Wright. Make the right choice. After you get out of there, you want to eat breakfast. You go to Sheik's for breakfast. If you having a good time after that, maybe you get a little hungry later in the day, you go to Agnes, All Natural Grill. And if maybe you want to go all natural, you don't want to take any pain medicine, you can drink Kiara wine for your pain. Look, I'm getting good at this, man. Man, take another day off. I got it. And then also, let's say the problem persists and you're wrapped in a cast, you can order off of theshoparea.com, which we have another product coming from there. The shop area has a little bit of everything from baby items, electronics, and kitchen items, and much more. Shipping is fast and free from the store to your door in 4 shipping days, man.
Okay.
So we just got to that part right there. So you were the treasurer, and then eventually you ventured off into becoming the vice president. Can you walk us through how you got there?
Okay. Yeah. The actually getting involved with the teachers union. In fact, before I went to Belmont, I was elected the prior May as treasurer for the teachers union. I got involved with the teachers union because they were working in some ways sometimes were not maybe as positive as I thought they should have been overall with teachers in terms of teacher image. There was a major focus on salary, fringe benefits, working conditions, which still made sense.
Yeah.
But again, understanding that I thought teachers were getting a bad rap during that time as I listened to media about how they were demonizing teachers. Or they only worked 9 months and they do the X and Y and Z, and none of them had walked in the shoes of a teacher. And so even my first year teaching, my first half year teaching, begin to think about how we can help improve the image. And so I get involved with the human relations, if you will, human relations department or committee with the teachers union, and begin to talk about different things that were happening, as well as how we were working with this whole issue of DSEG.
Yes.
Because the teachers union was also involved with the Board of Education, also with national groups that were coming in trying to help the city and the school district get through this whole DSEG movement. And so, that's where I learned that little exercise that I did with the team building in the classroom.
Yeah.
So that led to me being put on the executive board, primarily because another friend of mine, Ward Roundtree, who lives in Texas now, who was just here visiting this past weekend, we were working together as teachers over at Eastmont Science Center, teaching art in relationship to science. And so as we moved into our respective positions, I went to the high school because of the situation there, but we still worked with the human relations piece, with the school district and with the teachers union. And we went on our own to a conference in Columbus that was sponsored by the Higher Education Association. And the president of the teachers union was there. No, the vice president of the teachers union was there. And so when she saw us, you guys, Dayton and whatnot, wait, are you interested in being involved in doing some union work? And we said, well, we're doing this, we're doing that. Because we paid our own way,
Right.
up there to the conference. And so they said, well, we're interested in doing a little bit of something. So coming back to Dayton that evening, ironically, I run into the president of the teachers union
Wow.
at the mall. And so, I just met Vice President, so-and-so. Were you in Columbus? Oh, you guys interested in doing union work? So,
All right.
you're helping things out, doing this, doing that. And so we said, well, we got a couple of shortages on the executive board, and we have a meeting Monday night. Why don't you come to the meeting, and we'll introduce you to everybody and see, what's happening from that perspective. So anyway, that's how we began to get involved in that arena. And then, again, the next year, I get elected as treasurer for the teachers union.
Yes.
All right. So 3 years, no one run against me again. So then after 4 years of being treasurer, my partner and I decided we're going to run for vice president, and he's going to run for president. Wow. And so he runs for president. He wins by 25 votes out of 14,000. Okay. 1,400, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
And so I ran for vice president at the same time, and so I win by 70.
Wow.
Now, here's the issue. The teacher ratio of black and white teachers at the time was 75% white and 25% black.
That's a big disparity.
Okay. The thing that helped move us to those positions were recognized primarily because we were recognized as good teachers in those DSEG programs in those elementary years when we taught at that one particular science center. So as we moved and continued to do different things and we campaigned, people were familiar with us because during the time that we had 80% of the kids, 80% of the teachers came.
Wow.
So the teachers came with the kids every time they came to that particular science center. And so I was in charge of lunchroom and recess, after we finished doing the thing. So we said, okay, we give the teachers a break who came in with us so you guys can just have your lunch, y'all can sit and cool out, and we would take care of the kids because some of the teachers were good and disciplined, some of them were not. Even some of the ones were good and disciplined, they were not comfortable with disciplining kids that they were not familiar with. And so, okay, we take all that off your hands. Y'all just go sit in the cafeteria and cool out. We got the kids, okay? So in terms of doing that and developing the relationships with the kids outside, where we even played basketball with them. Yeah. The kids called the game Smear the Queer, but we had to change the name to Smear the Teacher. Okay, so
respectfully.
So right, so if they caught us throwing the football back and forth, if they caught us with the ball, they had the right to tackle us.
Yeah.
Okay, so you got these 6th, 7th, 8th grade kids out there tackling you and having fun, and at the end of recess, we got grass in our hair and on our clothes, just like they have, and so going into the restroom together, getting grass and stuff off each other, and then going to class, it created this bond.
Yes.
Okay, in terms of how they felt, valuable
Yes.
as individuals, and then when they did something that they were not supposed to be doing, it made it easier to talk with them to modify and correct their behavior.
Yes.
So the teachers observed that type of interaction in terms of that, what we were doing with them. And so it just sort of transformed because we were not thinking about running for any kind of office.
Right.
Okay.
Right,
It just
right.
just happened. So
It was genuine.
yeah. So those things happen from that perspective. Yeah.
So then you ventured from being vice president to the president of the teachers union.
Man.
That
Again.
I want to stop you just there, just to say, the road you traveled to this point is already legendary. Before you even get to the president part.
Well, I tell you, it sometimes I think about it, and it's sort of surreal, because I'm thinking probably being teaching union president was probably one of the best jobs I've ever had. Wow. It was a fight a lot, but there were so many benefits to people, and being able to work out contract situations, to handle grievances, to protect people's jobs, and at the same time asking people who were teaching to do the best they could in the classroom, and then say, okay, now if you do the best job you can in the classroom, I'm gonna do the best job I can in getting your salary and fringe benefits.
Absolutely.
Okay, and so it made it hard for folks to argue with that concept. So then when I'm going to the administration and or the board and sitting down at the negotiations table, we're saying, okay, so here's what we want. And so then we got to just push back initially. Okay, now here's what I want. Okay, then we start talking there. Still had pushback. We had some characters on that side. I mean, we still there. So anyway.
I was in the union before. I know there's always going to be
now
a yin to the yang.
Man.
Yeah.
So what made things move along is that we hired the first African American superintendent in the system who had a real strong sense, a guy by the name of Richard Hunter.
Richard Hunter.
He came from Virginia.
Yep.
Okay, strong business sense, strong, and business people liked him. Okay. Then we had a strong sister named Joan Pettiford,
Joan Pettiford.
who was the board president. Okay. Now, so here's what's happening. We have the president of the union, the superintendent of the school district, and the president of the school board all had kids in the system. Okay.
Got skin in the game.
Got skin in the game.
Yep.
So when we're talking about making things happen, now we have people that they hired. They had attorneys that they hired to do the negotiations, and those individuals work by the hour.
Yes.
They really
Yeah.
some of them didn't care about the outcome of the district in terms of whether it benefited kids or not. They were there to take back as much as they could from the teachers,
Yeah.
and give back as much as they could to the management.
Yeah.
Okay, so we were fighting those kinds of issues, and it got to a point where the superintendent, who was new from out of town, began to have some doubt about what they were doing. Now, of course, I helped him with that information to make sure he had doubt. Okay, so we were saying, okay, we were saying that we were going to talk about X and Y and Z, and we get to negotiations, and the attorney is saying, I don't have the authority to talk about that. So now I know in my mind, me and the superintendent just talked the night before.
Absolutely.
Okay, about what we said we wanted to do and put this forward. But there were times when the attorneys also wanted to drag out negotiations,
I mean,
as opposed to selling negotiations because we're in agreement.
Yeah.
And these things were happening
Progress
on a regular
on,
basis.
yeah.
And so it got to a point where the superintendent found out some issues, and because I said, okay, here, you find out from the arbitrator, we're in arbitration, you find out from the arbitrator, okay?
For the people at home, arbitration is when two parties do not agree on one thing. They send it to one person, and whatever they agree upon, both parties have to agree on the arbitration.
Right. So the arbitrator wanted to finish negotiations during Christmas break as well as the teachers. The attorney for the board did not, because he wanted to go on vacation or do something else during that time.
Of course.
Okay. So when I told the superintendent, well, the reason we didn't settle is because your guy. He said, well, my guy said you guys didn't want to negotiate. I said, no. I said, here, tell you what, here's the number for the arbitrator. You call the arbitrator, and you ask him who wanted to negotiate and who wanted to go home.
Right.
And so the superintendent fired that legal firm that was doing negotiations with us because he found him to be untruthful in terms of the process. Again, because we were trying to settle and make some good things happen for kids. And then I think that next year we negotiated the first multi-year contract.
Yes.
Now, for some people, they may not think that's a big deal.
That is a big deal.
Okay, because when you're negotiating a contract every single year, and some people live for that because they like the controversy.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And you do this and do that. You have people say, well, the union shouldn't want to do that because you take away your purpose for being the union. Okay, because people don't want to join if they don't see you fighting. I said, well, it's not supposed to be all about the fight.
Right.
Okay. So the process that we use in terms of dealing with that was another superintendent who came in after Richard Hunter left by the name of Franklin Smith. Franklin Smith, also African American male. So we sat down, we began to talk about what we want. Also had kids in the system.
Yes.
And so we go to our first negotiation session, and we decide, well, let's hire a consultant. So we hired a consultant. So we took his team in one room, my team in one room, and the consultant said, okay, give us your top 10 priorities. So when they came back from talking with both groups, 8 of our top 10 priorities were the same. Now, they were not all in the exact same order, but they were pretty much the same. So then superintendent and I talked with the groups and said, okay, well, we don't have enough money to do all 8 in the first place. So since we do not have enough money to do all 8, let's see if we can come up with an agreement on the first 3. And which ones of these are foundational or prerequisite to the other.
Yeah.
And so we went through that process, and then that started this tenure that I had for the remaining 3 years, because I was elected 6 times.
Yes. Got that.
6 consecutive times as president. So it started this relationship that allowed us to make good things happen for kids, okay, and good things happen for the people who are working with the kids. And then the people who were supervising the teachers, principals, and other supervisors, they began to understand their roles more clearly in terms of why they were supposed to support the teacher who was the frontline person to the kid in the classroom.
Wow, man. To me, like, that's monumental because, for instance, I used to work for RTA, and we went through contract negotiations, and I know how petty it can get.
Yep.
I mean, like, literally. So we have the very first strike in RTA history. I was a part of that.
Okay.
But a lot of our contract was based off of Dayton Public Schools contracts. So that's already butterfly effect. We ain't got there yet, but man, like, that's dope to hear that you were a part of the person who started the very first faction of multi-year contract negotiation. That is super dope, man.
Yep.
So, so eventually ventured to being the president of the teachers union, and that's from 2008 to 2011.
No, that was from you talking about school board there.
Yeah.
So teacher union from 1988 until not 1988. I'm sorry, 1983 until 1988. Okay. Yeah, 'cause my son graduated in '88, and so I know we were dealing with some issues then where there was some anticipation about a strike, and people talking about strike. I'm saying, man, I know we ain't striking. We gonna work our tail off to make this thing happen, you know. And so actually we had the best year during that time frame, and that's probably one of the really more monumental years for the city of Dayton and the school system, because the Annie Casey Foundation had come into play where they were offering money to different cities across the nation in poor communities to merge social service agencies into a relationship with the schools.
Okay.
And to do things primarily with middle school kids in that situation, so that we help them before their last transition to adulthood, which is high school.
Right.
Okay, so working that year with the Annie Casey Foundation and some significant members of the Dayton community, I remember guys like Tom Lashley, Ron Buzzick, gentlemen of that nature who worked. I think Tom was clearly at UD. Buzzy was working for the Meade Foundation. I mean, there are countless others. You know, Tom Breitenbach, who was CEO for Premier Health Partners, and so the issue in terms of how that group worked together to get that $20 million grant from the Annie Casey Foundation, and how we traveled to different cities in competition, you know, for those dollars. And so we wind up, I think, being one of 5 cities in the nation. I think Pittsburgh, Buffalo, Little Rock, Savannah were the 5, and Dayton were the 5 cities that wound up getting that particular grant. And so the school system had a match, if you will, not necessarily dollars, but the match from them was staffing, the school buildings, et cetera. And so we were able to put the what they call community associates, which are like a counselor, if you will, but have 4 or 5 of those individuals working in each one of the 3 middle schools, Roth, Wilbur-Wright, and Kaiser. And eventually I wound up being director of those programs with those individuals, and moved my office into the worst building, which was Wilbur-Wright at the time. So then having those dollars and having accessibility, because I control $1.2 million for that program to deal with those kids. So
$1.2 million for people in the back. That's $1.2 million.
Yeah. So to do training for staff, training for the kids, overnight trips, Kings Island, SeaWorld, you name it. You know, we had dollars to do those kinds of things, and we had teachers that were just stepping up, doing all kinds of things with the kids. Overnight sleep-ins, materials were not an issue. And initially, that's what a lot of the teachers wanted to do, was to buy materials and supplies.
Right.
Because previously there had been seemed like a shortage of those type of situations. But what we required them to do was to do activities with kids. And so we paid them extra money, which is part of that contract, to do after-school programming with the kids. Our discipline program, something that Melvin Crafter started, he was a principal over at Roth, was to have what we call the Evening Institute. So instead of the kid getting suspended if they did something bad or crazy or whatever the case may be, they would have to go to Evening Institute
Nice school.
with the approval of the parent. It's either we send them home for 4 or 5 days, 3 days of suspension, or they come to school every day and then they have to stay after school for 3 hours. So after school, it meant you had an hour of remediation training, which is schoolwork, an hour of conflict resolution training, and then an hour of what we call community service, which is actually helping the custodian clean up around the building. So the parents had that choice.
Man, you slick because
Yeah.
you used to be a custodian, man. You pretty slick there. You want to
So,
help out the
yeah,
guy.
Yeah. So the parents had that choice, and most parents said, "Yeah, you stay your butt at school."
Yeah.
Okay. And so then, of course, we fed them dinner.
Yeah.
Okay. So so they were cool with that part. But we didn't have as many repeat situations because of what they did. Because again, they were learning from. We got the Dayton Police to work with us in terms of the conflict resolution training. And then, of course, custodian with the cleanup. And then we had teachers who were staying after school to help them with their schoolwork. So it actually prevented them from falling behind in their schoolwork. And then it gave them some other tools to minimize the crap that they had been involved in. And then responsibility in terms of helping to do cleanup as far as the building was concerned.
Man, to me, that's already legendary. But before we move forward, what's your rapport with Bing Davis, the legendary Bing Davis?
Man, Bing is a bomb, man. We were laughing yesterday because
Shout
I
out to Bing
made
Davis,
I made some comments, because Bing and I have done some work together. Because he used to come out to Belmont when I was a teacher out there. I was teaching art and ceramics and whatnot, and we do some team teaching. And
The
just
legendary
for
Bing
fun.
Davis coming there and teaching.
Oh yeah, man. Bing was a bomb, man. And so yesterday, when we were doing the opening of the bridge, and so Bing was commissioned to be one of the people on this committee to help design the 3rd Street Bridge, and Paul Gruner, who's a county engineer, had tapped Bing to help out, and so Bing got introduced to the architect, and so they were doing their thing. So anyway, so when I came up to speak at the end, because the mayor was gone, so I gave greetings, etc. So I said, man, I'm a little bit salty because they asked me to help design this bridge. so I said, but y'all didn't know I'm an artist, I can still do that work, but I said, I'm gonna go home and get my magic mark and go out here and start putting some work on this bridge and whatnot. But Bing is such a quality person.
Oh my God!
I've been involved in so many things with him. I had his son in the Botillion, okay, back in the day, and he also, for free for the most part, did a little session with the men in the Jack and Jill Botillion, at least over the last 10, 15 years, where we all would go to his studio, and he would just take them through an artistic history of things that are happening and let them see the work, talk about the work and the life, etc., and talk about how it's not so much just art itself for the sake of art, but it is actually about how you travel through art, how you travel through music, how you travel through drawings and things of that nature, and how you travel through dance. So all these artistic forms that your body has within it, so you could see and find different aspects of yourself. And I think you were sort of touching on one of the points earlier, is when you have a stronger vision of self, stronger concept of self, then your confidence is higher.
Absolutely.
And then it puts you in a position where you feel like you can do anything.
Yep.
It's just you attach yourself in terms of hard work to anything that you think you want to do that's of value, then you could do that.
Yes.
You reach for the stars, or reach for the moon and fall among the stars, or reach for the moon and fall on the stars. One of those.
Yeah.
Anyway,
You got it twice, at
Yeah,
least.
you're gonna be up there. Yeah. Okay. You're gonna be up there. So, yeah.
Sure. And shout out to legendary Bing Davis, man.
Yeah.
We want to honor you as well, man, one day, man. So eventually, 2011, 2015, you was on the state school board.
And that's after being on the local school board, because when I retired from Dayton Public Schools after being government relations person.
What was like 35?
35 years.
Yeah.
Okay. And prior to that, I worked as a lobbyist for the Ohio Education Association. So I had the whole southwest quarter of Ohio in terms of lobbying for all the school districts in government relations work, political work, how to get them to be involved in the political process. Now, all along now, I'm not even thinking I'm involved in politics. Okay, but I did not serve my last year as union president because they hired me at OEA, and so I left. I mean, I probably could still be president of Dayton Teachers Union had I decided to stay.
Right.
Certainly, we would be in a much better position had I stayed.
Yeah,
Trust me.
absolutely.
Okay. But aside from that, the aspect of going to the state gave me an additional set of skills, and I had a chance to work professionally, with the great C.J. McLean. Now, when I was here earlier, having known C.J. McLean growing up, idolized the things that he was doing, and of course, he was another legend.
Absolute legend.
In terms of making good things happen for people in the region and the state. He's probably one of the strongest black legislators that we had in Ohio.
Absolutely.
And having that opportunity to work with some of the strongest legislators, like C.J. McLean here in Dayton, of course, Tony Hall was on Dayton, Dave Hobson, who's a Republican strong guy out of Springfield. Vern Rife was in my area. He was a Speaker of the House. Then we had Carl Bowen, rather. Was it Bowen? Bill Bowen. Bill Bowen and Bill Mallory in Cincinnati, but one in the Senate, one in the House. And so working with people like that who had so much power, and then even with Stanley Aronoff, who was president of the Senate out of Cincinnati, Dick Feinan, who was vice president of the Senate, and believe it or not, John Boehner. John Boehner was in the House of Representatives during the time that I was there, and was very, very workable and supportive of educational issues. 84% voting record on educational issues.
Because he probably got a bad rap for other things, but for him to have that type of love for education, he get a hat salute from me for that.
Yeah. So it really put me in a good space. Again, not even thinking about me doing what I'm doing.
Right.
Okay. There's no clue.
No rhyme or reason
at all. Okay. I'm just doing stuff, interacting with people, just trying to make good things happen. And so I find myself surrounded by so many people who were icons in terms of what they were doing, and blessed to have some of that just rub off on me, if you will.
Well, they ain't just rub off on you because you did get inducted to the Central State Achievement Hall of Fame. Let's talk about that.
Yeah. Well,
well,
I just mind my business one day, and I got this.
Every legend from I wish Smith was here. He's like every legend that come on here, it's like, nah, you know what I mean? It was easy to me. You know what I mean? I ain't really do nothing. That is a major achievement, Central State Achievement of Hall of Fame.
Well, I was actually just sitting at home one day, and I got this call, and it said that someone had recommended me and sent my resume in, and they had gone around and talked to some people, and they were just telling me that I had to come up there for some ceremony. So they had already made the decision when I got the call. Wow. And I was honored, man. I was, man. Yeah. I didn't even know they had an Achievement Hall of Fame. I just thought they had just the athletic stuff, But that's special because Central State, like I said to you earlier, ABC, made it so easy for me to sort of find myself, to take out that anger from being rejected.
Yes.
From the apprenticeship program that I wanted. I found so much richness and acceptance at Central State. Yes. When I went there. So, man, it just I'm just blessed.
Man, absolutely.
To be in this situation.
And a lot of people follow that same blueprint to become legendary. A lot of people that who've been on this podcast come from the legendary Central State. So shout out to Central State.
Yeah, for real.
Shout out to we got a Hall of Famer right here.
Yeah.
But back to like social issues. How important was the Learn to Earn and the Ready, Set, Soar program when you think about Dayton education?
Well, it's special for so many ways because even before we did the Ready, Set, Soar, being involved in those programs, looking for with Learn to Earn, for example, with how you can just increase the richness, if you will, in the educational programs that we have as far as the kids in Dayton Public Schools. And the basis behind the Ready, Set, Soar and doing the work with preschool kids is the essence of, first of all, the state cannot spend money on young people that are 4 years old and younger. Okay? So what we found in the city, and this is what Nan Whaley and myself did with and the other commissioners with the whole issue of looking at the data, if you will, before we did the whole City of Learners project, finding out where people were with regards to how you make things happen for kids. Because if the young people are coming to school 2 and 3 years behind in their developmental skills before they go to kindergarten, then it puts them in a position where if you want them to be at the 4th grade level 4 years later, it means that they have to learn 7 years worth of learning in 4 years.
Wow.
Which is almost impossible,
Right.
okay, in terms of doing that, especially if they're not being exposed to some of the same kind of opportunities that they have in some of the more affluent school districts.
Right.
Okay? I'm just going to
Yeah.
be real with you. Okay?
I know what you mean when you say
Okay.
that. I know
All
what you
right.
say that.
So I will listen to someone who clearly didn't know what they were talking about, and this happens way too often when they talk about a school distribution, a dollar amount per child. Dayton Public Schools spending hypothetically $5,000 more per child than they spend in Centerville, Oakwood, and Kettering. Okay, so when you look at the average household income difference between the kids' family in Centerville, Oakwood, and Kettering versus the kids' home at Dayton, you're looking at a $80,000 difference.
Absolutely.
Now, the last time I checked my math, okay, $5,000 doesn't close a $80,000 gap.
Yeah. Right.
Now, that's something that I wish more and more people understood. In fact, I won't say it again.
Yeah. One more time, people in the back. You look right in this camera right here.
Okay.
No, this camera right here. I
Okay,
got
this
you
one I
right
got you.
here. This
Okay,
camera right here.
okay. $5,000 doesn't close a $80,000 gap. So if you're looking at some of the reasons why different things are not happening for children who come from poor communities, both rural and urban, across the nation, not just here in Dayton, not just here in Ohio, but across the nation, clearly what happens in terms of research, it says that the higher the median income, the higher the achievement level of children.
Absolutely.
The higher the median income of the community, of the families, the higher the achievement level as far as the kids are concerned.
Right.
So when we have people that pretend that they want urban kids to be successful, but then they hold back on the resources to make it happen, but then still they want to penalize and then broadcast, you know, about how bad you're doing, you know, understand that it's a game. Understand that it's a game. And so we have to understand that it's a game as well, to the point where we don't beat up the wrong people who are trying to help and fix our kids. We have to understand also when it comes to who you vote for at the state level and local level, in terms of those who are saying what needs to be said for them to get elected, but not saying what needs to be said in terms of how you help young people move to the next level.
Right.
Yep. So,
Man.
so the piece of terms of us looking at data, looking at how 66% of the kids in Montgomery County are coming to school 2 and 3 years behind in their developmental skills, and 80% of them come to Dayton Public Schools. So when we looked at doing the issue 9, for example, was a piece that we passed in terms of a tax increase that citizens voted on very strongly, more than 60%, 64%, because we put those dollars into doing a preschool promise program to help the families, not just in Dayton, but primarily in Dayton, to do the preschool promise to make sure that our early learners, those kids who were 3 and 4 years old, got a better start in their basic fundamental skills. I think a thing called the crawl test, something is kindergarten readiness test, so that when they went into kindergarten, they were better prepared for the educational program.
Right.
So that was our impetus behind doing that.
So,
And we were one of the few cities in the nation to do that.
yeah, absolutely. So, just to fast forward to where we are today, just to look at that program compared to now, how much do you think it set kids back with them, with the COVID situation, learning at home?
Man, it's horrible. But you know what's worse? I mean, it's bad. It's just horribly bad because so many of our children go to school for their social interaction.
Yes.
And when you take that social interaction away, you strip them of so much of the richness. And because the purpose of school is to socialize society. So first you got to understand that. So if you don't understand that, then you don't think there's any big deal about kids staying at home, learning, on the website and all that, So if you don't understand that, you don't see a problem with it. But when you understand the purpose of education is to socialize society by virtue of creating a variety of educational experiences for them, including extracurricular, that allows them to identify and hone their talents so they can use those talents in a variety of ways to make their positive contribution to society.
Right.
So they can choose to go to the military, they can choose to go to technical school, they can choose to go to college, they should be able to choose to go into the workforce through some apprenticeship programs or any combination thereof.
Right.
Okay? That's the purpose of education.
Right.
The purpose of education is not test scores.
Right.
Okay?
Right. Yeah.
Especially test scores at this lowest level, minimal standards. That's bull.
Right.
Okay? And so one of the problems that we continue to have in the educational arena is that we have people who don't understand the purpose of education.
Right.
And until we do a better job of explaining and accepting that, we're going to always be chasing each other, chasing our tails, and being conflict with each other, with the media, with legislators, with business people, because we're talking about apples and grapes and oranges and peaches. We're not talking about the same thing.
Right. So eventually you run for office, which is city commissioner. So what was that transition like?
Well, when I was on the state school board,
Yeah.
and Governor Strickland asked me to run for state school board. I still had another year left as president of Dayton board, which I really love. That's another job that I loved a lot. I made the decision, and we talked about me being able to help do things for all the urban schools in Ohio, because I used to be the president of the Urban Congress, which represented the 21 urban school districts in Ohio. And so with me having that experience, and then him seeing some of the work that we've been doing here in Dayton during my tenure in leadership positions, asked me to run for state school board.
Yeah.
Now, I was very hesitant because we were moving along in Dayton. We passed the first school levy in 16 years. We were making some good things happen. We'd had some of the highest rating as a district in the 2 years that I was president, and for 3 years I was vice president and president of the school board. And so asking me to run for that, and then he didn't win the re-election. I won the election to the state school board.
Yeah.
In Butler County, Miami County, and Montgomery County, and Dark County. In fact, I lost in Butler County, but I won the other 3 counties. So anyway, so I'm there, and he doesn't win re-election, and so I'm there with a reconfigured state school board,
Right.
who seems to be focused on how we can minimize the effectiveness of urban schools and public schools. And so I'm in this battle up here for 3 years dealing with these issues. And then I got a call from some members of the commission in terms of some of the potential changes that they were thinking about. And they asked me to be a part of a team to run for the commission. And I said, man, where do I sign? Let me get on this wagon and get off of this one that I'm on, because I wanted to do something that was beneficial, that was effective, that was affecting people in a positive way. And so coming back home even though I was in Columbus, probably 3-4 days a month, and then traveling around. I had 150 school districts in my area that I was working with. Being back home, if you will, and having my primary focus in Dayton was something that was special for me. So
Man.
I came back and ran for the commission. I won. And
how did that feel, man?
Great. It still feels great. It still feels like it's almost like surreal, but being a part of a team that they had me in a situation working with Dean Lovelace, who I'd known since junior high. Okay. Matt Joseph, who had used to be the aide for Congressman Tony Hall. Mm-hmm. And so I knew him back when I was a lobbyist for the Higher Education Association, when I worked in Washington at different times. Mm-hmm. And then Joy Williams, who was a former student of mine, okay? And then Nan, who I met early on in her career with the Democratic Party. So it was like just being at home with some good people who want good things to happen as far as Dayton is concerned.
So here at the Legendary People podcast, we had a thing called the butterfly effect, where it's either something you said during the course of the interview that I found truly profound, or something I found during my research that I found that was truly amazing. Your story still isn't done. We still got other things we can get to. But I mean, we're almost here for 2 hours, so I mean, I'll do the quickest after this. But it's something I just want to like stop and then just to recognize your journey of where you came from, to go from serving the country. I mean, coming from Dayton Public Schools to begin with, to give you the navigational tool that you had later on. So you put that in your tool bag. You went off and you studied abroad, which I want to call the military. You got a chance to see different things because, like I said, Dayton ain't bad unless you ain't been nowhere else, right?
Man,
so
you say that again.
So Dayton ain't bad unless you've been somewhere else, right? So like to go off and then you get a world perspective now. Then you come back, and then to still be faced with those same situations that you dealt with before you left, having to go through the segregation of a child to now coming back and you seeing those same issues being there without the rope, there. For you to go from that to still humble yourself to be a janitor, cleaning in these same hallways, and now you are now cleaning house now down there. Mm-hmm. To me, I found it just truly profound to see your journey, to see what you actually want. Because, I mean, you can't go 2 miles outside of this building and not see a Jeffrey Mims poster up. You know what I mean? Like, bro lit. Bro lit. Let everybody in the back. But like I truly want to say, like, there's so many things, like, that are tied to what you've done. Nothing even more accomplished than what I want to say to you now is, you partner with Dean Lovelace, which is your brother from another mother, you want to say it like that, right? Dean Lovelace has been a fixture in my life my entire life. Okay. Dean Lovelace literally was a person, because like my grandmother used to work for the school board. She used to work at Roosevelt. She fell down the stairs and she injured her back. Her name Annie Bonaparte. Mm-hmm. You probably know her from the Ujima Network. Mm-hmm. That's my grandmother. Mm-hmm. Dean Lovelace was the person that was there for every beacon call that my grandmother had. He would show up, bring her food, bring her groceries, whatever. And that speaks to his character. And the fact that y'all two partnered together speaks to your character. Because we're always friends through somebody else's proxy. And like, for instance, to me, like, for instance, I saw you on the news the other day, and you're still fighting for us. And when I say us, I'm not just saying black people in general. I'm saying
the people.
People in general. Such as with the brother who was pulled out of the police car, out of the vehicle. Yeah. And to see the fact that you are brave enough to stand up and say, we need to get this investigated, this, and the third, because some people, because you've seen it happen on your own watch, when you were younger, you would see bad things happen and then it gets swept underneath the rug. Yep. I want to tell you off top that you are unequivocally a legend, and we're going to get to some more of your highlights before we get up out of here, but I want to let you know, we really appreciate you more than we could ever tell you on this podcast, man. Like, truly.
There's so many people that, again, I stand on their shoulders because of the role models that they set, even though they may not have known they were setting those those role models or those pathways, if you will, for us to follow. And when you look back, and sometimes you find yourself emulating some other people just because it seemed like they did the right thing, and they may have gotten some accolades, they may not have gotten accolades, but you see sometimes there's smiles on people's faces because of things that they had done for them. I know there were some parents of teachers who I didn't know, but sometimes will tell me how their son or their daughter got their continuing contract because I pushed to make that happen. Now, there are state laws that qualify a person for their continuing contract.
Right.
But we had people who didn't want to give them their continuing contract because of reasons of stupidity. I'll just put it out there, okay? And being the union president and being able to help move those roadblocks out of the way for things of that nature, to help people who were not getting paid for the experiences that they had in terms of years of experience and being on the wrong pay step. You'd be surprised how many individuals fell into that category, and making those things happen. Being able to work with leaders who saw value in Dayton Public Schools, for example, to say, okay, maybe we need to pass a levy to give them more salary, more fringe benefits, and give more opportunities for kids. So there are so many blessings that come from watching people like that do those things and then being able to work with them. And then even with the city, there are so many young people that are being helped by this whole initiative with the preschool promise, with the early childhood pieces that we're working on, and the Obama's My Brother's Keepers piece that was pushed in my direction by Mayor Nan Whaley as President Obama pushed this down because of that Trayvon Martin situation in Florida. So being involved in that and being able to push that to the school system and then push it out into the community, and the data is showing that those black males who had been involved in those programs had better attendance, had better achievement, including better test scores, and fewer incidents of negative behavior. So it's right in line with what should be happening as far as our whole community is concerned. So now those individuals fall in a position where they're more employable, and they're in a position to get a job, they're in a position to go to college, they're in a position to get a scholarship and go to college, or they're in a position to do some of these apprenticeship programs so they can come out of these situations with a $40,000, $50,000, $60,000 job with no college debt. And then those dollars that they're getting in terms of salary, and then they're paying their fair share of taxes, then it raises the value of Dayton and raises the median income of Dayton, which then causes more businesses to want to come to the city of Dayton and make their contribution and investments in Dayton.
Right. Another point I want to say about the butterfly effect was, I mean, I went to school with a brother named Will Smith.
Yep.
Literally Will Smith. When I say Will Smith is one of the best, not Will Smith like, but this Will Smith can out-rap that Will Smith. Rap about everything in this room, one of the freestyle. Will Smith is just phenomenal, and to see him join the school board and the waves he's making.
And to be vice president now and potentially president.
And it sounds like you got some footsteps he can follow to get to where he's going. And I think representation is always key, because, if we don't have a person that I feel comfortable to say, I know that brother. I feel comfortable knowing that brother is going to look out for us as well. Because, for instance, I mean, to harken back to the whole police situation, to me, I feel representation should be there as well. I don't feel it should be people that's not from the neighborhood policing the neighborhood they don't live in. I mean, that's how I feel about it. But I also feel that same way on the board of school boards and stuff like that, because skin in the game is what we're talking about.
Skin in the game. Yeah.
So,
skin in the game.
Man, to me,
and even when you talk about the perspective of recruitment and retention of police officers and fire people, we've had several attempts at making this happen. I mean, probably more than several, but some that I can remember from my experience, if you will. On the board, when I was on Dayton School Board, we did put something in place over at Ponitz, and for fire and police apprenticeship type programs. Now it sort of fell apart, if you will. Maybe because I left and I was not able to stay here and try to monitor that and support it. But we did have a smaller program over at E.J. Brown where we had some 7th and 8th graders and had a couple of police officers with me and one of my aides, and just did fun things with them to get them to feel a more positive experience, if you will, in dealing with police.
Right.
And doing a pre and post test about their attitudes about police, their attitudes about community, their attitudes about safety, and seeing the initial responses compared to the responses at the end of the year, tremendously different on the positive side in terms of what they experienced during those interactions with police. Then to look at some things that the city has done here recently, I think it was last year or the year before last, a police and fire program over at Belmont High School. Okay, in terms of apprenticeship, things for them to do as they go through their regular school program. And then to change some of the ways that we hire potential police officers through our recruiting process is to create something called the HEROES program, which allows for those individuals who are current employees of the city, to be able to pass, if they pass the physical and they qualify, to be able to go to the training program. That coming out of the training program, then you're eligible to be hired as a police officer and or a fire person. And one of the things that most people don't know is that unlike fire, where you can go in right after high school if you go through the training process and come out successfully, a police person has to wait, and this is justifiably, until you're at least 21 years old before you can actually go in to be a police officer.
Right.
And I think it's fair because they have to make a lot of hard, quick judgment decisions. And research shows that the higher your educational level may be, the least likely you are to use a weapon or any other form of escalated behavior. So those type of things are some of the kinds of things that we've done repeatedly. I mean, going to churches, going virtually everywhere, trying to find a pool of individuals who want to be in the space of being a police officer in particular, and then also work as a fire person.
Absolutely. So, like, what's your stance on police reform?
Very much needed, which is the reason why we made that move a couple of years ago, and it's something that needs to have happened a long time ago. And fortunately or unfortunately, the situation with George Floyd happened, and that caused a lot of cities around the nation to sort of wake up, because I think at that point in time you could no longer pretend like it wasn't happening. We saw 9 minutes and some seconds of a person slowly having the life drained out of him under the control, if you will, of a police officer. So it's sort of undeniable, if you will. And so much of the riots and the distress or unrest, if you will, across the nation are pretty much justified, clearly. Now, those cities who were all just mad because people were protesting and still didn't get it, they may find themselves, hopefully not, but find themselves in a situation where that is potentially a powder keg waiting to happen again. We chose to take another step. We chose to put together a series of committees and panels, usually more than 100 people from the community, those who were naysayers to the police, those who were naysayers to the city, and even some of those who loved the city and loved the community. So we had a mixture of people in the respective committees. I fortunately had the committee dealing with use of force.
Yes.
And when I say fortunately, maybe because of being the only veteran on the committee, being a person who had been involved in using guns and weapons, previously, of course, in my life, being in the military, I understand more clearly, I guess, if you will, about how vital it is, if you will, for you to think before you do something that you may regret in the process. But also being able to understand, this is probably more than anything, being able to understand and listen to the different members of the committee that talked about why they felt we should change this versus that, and including, again, police officers who are on the committee as well. But then being able to understand why it was important to agree and to push the first recommendation that came from all of us. The first recommendation that was pushed was body cameras.
Yes.
Okay, and that came from my committee, and for that to be accepted by the entire commission, again, very quickly. And had it not been for the body cameras, we would not have this conversation about Mr. Oglesby,
Right.
because we wouldn't have had a process to capture that. And that's what to say to the citizens of Dayton, that we are trying to do the best job we can with regards to this whole process. And that's an example of us taking a big step to move in that direction. I think additionally, the Know Your Rights forums. So we've had these forums. We had one meeting already, and I think our second one is, I think someone said maybe November the 9th. And all that information will be posted in terms of where it's going to be and timing. The first one we had was at the Gem City Market.
Yeah. Legendary.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful place.
So that would be an opportunity again, and again, there are going to be multiple forums of that nature. But it helps people in this city understand and see and hear what their rights are when confronted by a policeman.
Right.
And then my committee also made recommendations about training, how we train our officers in terms of how they can de-escalate a situation as opposed to escalate. Now, we have not gotten through to the point where they've gone through those training classes yet, but those things have been approved by the commission and they're on the books in terms of moving in that direction. There's still some justifiable criticism from us not being able to get the proportionality piece, and let me explain what that means. It means that the actions by the police person and activities associated with that, use of force, if you will, should be proportionate to the violation that the citizen is being approached with.
Right.
And so it shouldn't be at some extreme for something minor.
Such as a window tint should not be, let me drag you out this car.
Well, what I have to say with regards to that, when we looked at that video, it was disturbing and painful for all of us. Being a black man is probably more painful for me and you than probably a lot of people with regards to that, and certainly wish that would not have happened in any way, shape, or form. I'm happy that there's no permanent damage that was done in that situation.
Absolutely, say
and,
that.
And that we are hoping that the process that we go through would yield justice to those who are involved.
There we go.
And that's fair.
Yes.
And that's probably as far as I can go with it. But that's what's in my head and what's in my heart. That process should be fair in terms of addressing that, and the investigation should yield fairness when it's completed.
I want to just add one more caveat to that. Was that same officer, I saw him a month before that literally come up to a vehicle on Lorenz and Oak Ridge. I have it on my Facebook Live, and literally walked to the car, didn't ask for ID or nothing, told him I'll get out the car, and then literally was aggressive in that to these same people literally a month before this happened. So the training is definitely needed, and I'm glad that you are a person I can trust that is going to make sure that happens. So what's next for the great Mr. Mims? What's next? Right.
Just humbled to be in this position to continue to serve this community. I feel even when I first got on the commission and people asked me those things about how I feel, I said, having these great experiences as an educator and as a mentor and of course coach, and having so many young people have the trust and faith and confidence in me during their lifetimes. And now that they're adults,
Yes.
okay, I still feel that obligation. You know, I have seen Dayton in some really, really great times, even growing up, not knowing, like I said, not knowing that I was poor, because my basic needs were all met. And I had great friends and, you know, great opportunities, you know, just, you know, out the yin yang, as some people say, okay? But the thing was that there were so many people who were doing what they did. There were so many people who valued education. There's so many people who value taking care of each other. And people sometimes forget about why we are in the situation that we're in, because sometimes we have gotten to a place where we don't value each other as much. We don't value life as much. We're more callous than we should be.
Absolutely.
We have games, video games, and things of that nature that the whole essence of those games is violence.
Yes.
And I mean, it used to be even cartoons before we're into this. You see, what's the guy, you know, the Roadrunner and the Coyote and those folks dropping anvils on each other. And, you know, and of course, unlike the cartoons, you know, when they drop the anvil on them, you know, yeah, they fall for a minute, they get flattened out for a minute, but then 2 seconds later, they're right back to normal.
Right.
Okay? That's not real life in terms of what's happening from those perspectives. But the callousness that seems to have been bred in so many of our communities, along the same time, people in poor and urban communities being made to feel like they are not as valuable as others. You look at the red line study that was done, that we talked about that, and it validates everything that we're saying without me going into all the detail.
Absolutely.
It just validates how people have been treated and how people have been divided by design to create this kind of condition that allows people with means to take advantage, if you will, of these circumstances. And so what I've always seen myself as pushing and fighting for is fairness. You know, again, going back to elementary school, fairness for everyone who's involved in a situation, fairness involved in the quality of educational opportunity, which again, the Ohio Supreme Court says that the way the responsibility of the state legislature is to support and provide for a thorough and efficient system of common schools by taxation or otherwise.
Yes.
And that's one of the passages from the Ohio Supreme Court, but the Ohio Constitution, as it pertains to education. And then when we have individuals who, under the pretense of choice, talk about doing more schools that are charter, more schools that are private, more schools that are draining away from the existing public school system.
Right.
It's a real confusing set of circumstances for people who don't understand. But additionally, what it does is you say you want choice, but clearly one underfunded choice compared to another underfunded choice is not a choice.
Right.
And so when the state legislature pushed charter schools on top of a system that was already unconstitutionally underfunded, and you pushed those schools primarily in urban districts, it just fragmented the resources that were already there. And so when you had 1.8 million children in Ohio, and you had 600 school districts, and then you add another 400 school districts called charter schools,
Yeah.
you just added to the problem.
Yeah.
You exacerbated the problem as opposed to fixing the problem. Now, there are some great charter schools around. So the issue is not against the charter schools. The issue is against the system that fragments the resources, it fragments people, it causes people sometimes in different systems to root against the success of other kids.
Right.
So it's ridiculous to have adults in this one system rooting for the failure of kids in this system,
Yeah.
so their system looks better than your system.
Right. Right.
And the kid is the loser.
right. Exactly.
Okay, so fighting for these conditions to be erased or minimized or eliminated is a personal vision of mine, because it has so much major impact on how the city functions and how the city moves. Because when you have a pool of qualified workers, then you have external employers who want to move into your city. And what I will say, that they are moving in. They're doing things. They're making investments. And we received, 4 years ago, recognition of All-American City. And some of that was based on the fact that we had
Food, stuff like that.
yeah, but we had the fastest job growth in the region, right here in Dayton. So, contrary to some beliefs that businesses are leaving, I'm not sure where they get that from. They must be reading somebody else's magazine.
We inside two businesses right now function, okay? It's
Man,
a total t-shirt business out there, and we inside of a podcast.
Man, and you got that little sister Tay Winston. She's doing all kind of things. Not only is she jumping off with her businesses, but she's also helping other people develop businesses.
And
so
she was on this podcast.
yeah,
as well.
oh, was she? Okay,
Yeah,
all right.
absolutely.
Okay,
Yeah, I interviewed her, and I actually got her life story. I actually went to school with her as well.
Okay.
Yeah, we went to Metal the other day.
yeah. Well, her father's one of my former students.
Get out of here.
Yeah. So,
Wow, man.
yeah, so,
It's legendary.
yeah.
So, what about the bid for mayor? I mean, are you?
Well, we're in that process.
Here we go. Let's talk it.
In 20 days, we're gonna know what's up with that. It's been a journey, man. It's been a journey, and it still seems somewhat surreal. But I will say to you, in a very, very humble fashion, we're still working. You're still working to make it happen, because again, my move to do the
Community
mayorship,
work.
to be the mayor of Dayton, is just a follow-up and continuation of my serving people.
There you go.
And no one has my record. Okay, no one has my record in terms of serving people, and the aspect of what people may want in terms of those processes, and in terms of the actions, in terms of what they think they want. Okay, you can't get a better shot at getting that than with me.
Right.
Okay, because I understand. I've been here in the great times. I've been here in the bad times, and we're turning things around, and we've been turning things around since I've been on the commission the last 8 years. So I'm very confident. And for those who are in doubt, I mean, just honestly, just be honest with yourself and ride around the city. Things may not be happening exactly in your neighborhood, and I'm sorry for that. That hasn't happened yet, but bad things are happening in fewer neighborhoods.
Right.
Okay, and good things are happening in more neighborhoods.
Here we go.
And the way we increase that and the way we accelerate that is we give credit for the things that have happened. You don't try to rap and find your mate by telling them, how
All the bad things about you.
yeah, all the bad things. Your hair's uncombed. You wear clothes that don't match. They're too small. You got shoes from the 1950s. And then like the only way that you're gonna be anything is if you marry me.
Right.
Girl saying, man, well look, man,
Yeah.
let me find somebody they got a little bit of something good to say about me before I move in this direction. Okay.
Right.
So when we look at what's happening again in the city of Dayton, we look at the millions of dollars of investments that have come in over the last over the last 8 years, and some more specifically over the last 6 years. It's just hard, the arcade that was
Yes.
a ghost of a building for 30 years, and now look at that.
Yes.
The Levitt Center that was non-existent.
Yes.
That's we're one of 15 cities in the nation that have a Levitt Center, and we have people coming from all over the place.
Yep.
To take part in some of the musical talent and entertainment that's coming down there. None larger than the Ohio Players. That was a couple weeks ago. None larger than that.
That's a great segue. You could have segued because I'm going to ask you about your affiliation with the Atlanta Funkway.
Yeah.
And your position on the Hall of Fame of Funk.
Well, certainly. I mean, we passed that, street naming
That's legendary.
commission, okay? And it was down there again today with the folks down there, and all smiles. I brought two guys who they know, Stan Man Brooks. Okay. And Stan's older brother, Paul, played lead guitar. He corrected me. I thought it was basically lead guitar. My mind's a little fuzzy, but some years. Okay. But lead guitar for a couple of groups, and they used to live like 2 doors down from me on Hopewell when I lived in Jefferson Township. And then Keith Harrison played with was it Fazo band, and see his older brother was the guy I talked about named Steve, that played in the band and stuff in Jefferson Township. And Steve Harrison and I played in all the talent shows in Dayton, drum duets. And we won every talent show 3 times.
3 times.
Okay, so whatever school had talent shows, guys used to be a little mad at us.
Yeah.
We come in and throw sticks back and forth while we playing and behind our back, and whatnot, and walk away with the hardware. And then it got so bad they say, okay, you guys can't get into the competition no more. Y'all just play entertainment while we figuring out the scores for everybody else. And then they paid us for doing that. So yeah, it was fun being involved in that. But playing with the artists of music way back in the early '60s, and Satch with the Ohio Players, Ohio Touchables. So he was playing the saxophone with that group that I played in. I think I was probably like 15 when I started playing with them, and then 16, it's just amazing, and didn't realize that you're a part of that kind of history.
Yes.
At that point in time, and then his going to the Ohio Untouchables, and then which later became to be the Ohio Players.
Yes.
And I think Robert Ward used to be the leader at that particular point in time. Yeah, Robert Ward and the Untouchables, and and so on. So I mean, it was just so much happening with regards to great music in the city of Dayton back during those times. So, yeah.
So, man, it's legendary to have that, man. Listen, nothing more legendary than your story. There's way more in here. I mean, we can go to being the Peace Wars, the Cooking Man 2013. We got Director of Government and Community Relations and Compliance. There's so much more this brother has done, so please do your due diligence to Google him. But I'm telling you, you definitely have my vote. I really appreciate you coming on our podcast. I mean, really, this is probably one of the most legendary moments we have on this podcast. So, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Man, well, thank you, brother. I appreciate the time. I appreciate your time. This is just it's just great to have these kind of conversations. Because sometimes there are things that I've forgotten about that I've done and been involved in, but I cannot underscore how much support and assistance that I've gotten along the way from so many good people. And when anyone thinks that they can do great things or good things about themselves, please ask them to step back and just look and think and recall the fact that so many things that you do is when you have surrounded yourself with people who are good.
Absolutely.
And life is a team sport, and just remember that it is a team sport, and you function from that perspective.
And one more legendary quote from my man Jeffrey Mims is, when you upgrade the educational systems, you upgrade society.
Amen. Amen.
So here at Legendary People Podcast, we want to give a shout out again to our sponsors, which is Sheiks for breakfast. We got Agnes for lunch. We got Michael Bright if you get injured. We got Big if you need Kiara wine. And if you go to the shiparea.com for all of your electrical, kitchen, and baby items shipped to your door in 4 days or less. I'm your boy Dash Resource. I do sell stocks not dope every Sunday 8:00 p.m. where I teach people how to trade stocks, and I teach them easy ways of how you can make money in that and crypto. I'm not a drug dealer. I'm not a rapper. I'm a day trader, man. Thank you, Legendary People Podcast. Legendary People, Legendary Stories, man. Shout out to Jay Cutler, man. Good job, bro. Proud of you, son.
Good job, brother. Appreciate you.
Thanks.
Man,